Hi friends, so I'm back with the part 2 video for this MCQs of the Indian Constitution. So in the part 1 video we have discussed about some of the MCQs, and let us resume the session with the part 2 video for this MCQs. As I said before, these are the MCQs that were collected from the old question paper, and some of them are my own MCQs. So this will be very much useful for your revision as well as for your to assess yourself. Now moving on to the first MCQ without wasting much of our time. Here, the first MCQ. The philosophy underlying the Indian Constitution was embodied quite earlier in the objective resolution, which was moved in the first session of the Constituent Assembly by. So simply saying, this question is regarding who moved the objectives of resolution. Right, the principle of our constitution lies in the objectives of resolution, and this objectives of resolution was moved by whom? This is the question, and here there is a date that is mentioned here. On 13th December 1946, this objectives of resolution was moved by an eminent person in the first session of the Constituent Assembly. So who is that person? Means the answer for this is, we have already discussed this point, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru ji. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru ji moved the objectives of resolution in the first session of the Constituent Assembly. So when was the first session of the Constituent Assembly? In this particular MCQ, you are getting two bits. The first session of the Constituent Assembly was conducted on 13th December 1946. This is one important point. And in this first session, the objectives of resolution was moved by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru ji. Right. So answer for this is option A. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru ji moved the objectives of resolution. This objectives of resolution is unanimously adopted by the assembly within 1 month, in the month of January. Means in the month of December, Jawaharlal Nehru ji moved this in the assembly, and in the month of January this was unanimously adopted by the assembly and this was later converted into the preamble. Right. And who prepared this objectives of resolution? This point also we have discussed. The objectives of resolution was not prepared by Jawaharlal Nehru ji. Instead, it was prepared by the Motilal Nehru ji, who was the father of Jawaharlal Nehru ji. Right. So you are supposed to know the whole history behind this. Right. First point here is Motilal Nehru ji prepared this objectives of resolution, and Jawaharlal Nehru ji passed this or introduced this in the Constituent Assembly in the month of December. It was unanimously accepted in the month of January, and later on it was converted as preamble. Clear? Okay, just a minute. I'm just realizing all this. Chalo, the next bit here is the objectives of resolution was unanimously adopted by the assembly on which date? Just now I told you the objectives of resolution was passed by Nehru ji in the month of December. Right. But later on it was adopted, it was accepted by the assembly in the month of January. This point we have discussed, but here the question is regarding the date. So on which date this was accepted? See the options here: January 22nd, 1947, December 22nd, 1947, January 21st, 1947 and December 21st, 1947. So, on which date the objectives of resolution objectives of resolution was accepted by the assembly and was converted into preamble. This is the question here, on which date it was accepted. The answer for this is option A, that is January 22nd, 1947. Option A is the right answer for this. So just now I told you, in the month of December, that is 13th December, Nehruji introduced this, and in the month of January, 22nd January, it was adopted by the Constituent Assembly. So answer for this is option A. See the next question here. Who of the following appointed as a Vice President of the Assembly? Right, so the options for this: H.C. Mukherjee ji, V.T. Krishnamachari, both the above, none of the above. Clear? The question is regarding the Vice President of the Assembly. So, who of the following appointed as a Vice President of the Assembly? Is that Mukherjee or Krishnamachari? So, here first I'll give the answer for this, and then we will go for the explanation for this. So answer for this is C. Both H.C. Mukherjee and Krishnamachari ji, they were appointed as a Vice President of the Assembly. Now let me go for the full form and the explanation for this. H.C. Mukherjee means, I already told you the full forms of each and every name here. H.C. Mukherjee, Harendra Komar Mukherjee. H.C. stands for Harendra Komar Mukherjee. He is from West Bengal. Right. So here I said both H.C. Mukherjee and Krishnamacharya. The full name of Krishnamachari ji, he is from a Jaipur. Vengala Thiruvenkatachari Krishnamachari. Just a minute. Vengala Thiruvenkatachari Krishnamachari and the H.C. Mukherjee, Harendra Komar Mukherjee. These two names are very important here. Let me tell you the story behind this. Krishnamachari ji, he joined the Constituent Assembly in the middle. The Constituent Assembly was already appointed and it was assembled. But Krishnamachari ji, he joined the Constituent Assembly in the middle. That was on 28th April 1948. Okay, he joined as a representative of the Jaipur. Jaipur was a princely state at that time. So, as representing the Jaipur, Krishnamachari ji, he joined the Constituent Assembly on this particular date. Right. In July 1947, following the decision of the partition of India, the Constituent Assembly modified its rule to have two vice presidents. Right. When they decided to partition this India, then the Constituent Assembly rules were changed, and they have also decided that the Constituent Assembly will have a separate Constituent Assembly will be having for the Pakistan also. In this modification of the rules, they also decided that we will have two vice presidents. Till then we have only one vice president, that was the H.C. Mukherjee ji. Hope you got the point. Don't get confused, guys. I am repeating this point once again. Let me show you. Till 1947 July, we used to have one vice president, that was H.C. Mukherjee. Right. Later on, in this particular date, 1947 July, they decided that they will have a partition of India. So, they will have both Pakistan Assembly and the Indian Constituent Assembly. Then, in this process, they have also changed some of the rules, like the Indian Constituent Assembly decided to have two vice presidents. Already we have one vice president, that is H.C. Mukherjee. Okay, they require second vice president, and they decided that the second vice president will be from the princely states. Okay, so that they won't have any feeling that from our side there is no one is there to represent us. They want to distribute it equally. So they decided to have the second vice president from the princely state. Clear? So when the assembly did elected this vice president on 16th July, 1948. Okay, there were only two nominations. One is from the Krishnamachari ji. So that is he is from Jaipur, and he was selected unopposedly. So the second vice president was added, and who was the second vice president? Krishnamachari ji. Okay, so when he was appointed on 16th July 1948. Please remember these dates. Of course, this date is not very important, but the story behind this is very important. Why we got two vice presidents? We used to have only one vice president, H.C. Mukherjee. In between, after 1 year nearly, we got Krishnamachari ji. He is from which state? Jaipur state. Clear? A princely state. That is the story behind this. Now moving on to the next question. The objective resolution was unanimously adopted by the Constituent Assembly on 22nd January 1947. Had the following provisions as given below. Yes, we know that the objectives of a resolution was accepted by the Assembly on 22nd January 1947, and it is having the following provisions. So what are the following provisions? See the first one and the second one. Adequate, first one I am reading for you. Adequate safeguards shall be provided for minorities, backward and the tribal areas, and depressed and other backward classes. So, the safety should be provided for the minorities, backward tribal areas, and the depressed and other backward classes. This is the first point. Second point, all powers and authorities of the sovereign independent India, its constituent parts and the organs of government are derived from the people. So which of the following statements, which of these statements are correct? Means which of these statements are there in the objectives of resolution? Clear? The question is, so I am repeating the question for you guys. The objectives of resolution was accepted unanimously, no doubt in that. Okay, on which date it was accepted? 22nd January 1947 it was accepted. And here the question is, in this objectives of resolution, what are the 2 points that are mentioned? Means is these 2 points are mentioned or not? This you have to identify. Okay, so these are the options here. So here answer for this is option C. Both the above are right. Means adequate, it is regarding the safety of the minorities, backward classes and the tribal areas, and the sovereignty of the independent India, and that is derived by the people. Clear? So both the above answer for this is option C. C is the right answer for this particular question. And let me tell you guys here, in this objectives of resolution, mainly it is having 9 points. Okay, I'll prepare a separate session for this where we will discuss about all the 9 points of the objectives of resolution some other time. But for now, just remember that in the objectives of resolution, we are mainly having 9 important points, and 2 of the 9 important points we have already discussed here. Right, in this way you all have 9 important points. Let's move on to the next MCQ quickly. The national anthem was adopted by the Constituent Assembly on which of the following day? On which day the national anthem was adopted? So we discussed this point in our explanatory videos. So answer for this is 24th January 1947. So 24th January 1947, the national anthem was adopted. right? So the last session of our Constituent Assembly. See here, the next one. The total expenditure incurred on the making of the constitution amounted is. So it looks like funny for you, but this was a bit given in one of the state PSC exam. The total expenditure incurred on the making of the constitution amounted is. How much amount they have spent in the making of the constitution? This is the question here, right? So the option 64 lakhs, 65 lakhs, 66 lakhs and 67 lakhs. This is the approximate amount actually. So the amount for this, the answer for this is 64 lakhs. So in order to prepare this constitution at that time, in those days, they have spent 64 lakhs of rupees. So this question was actually given in PCS exam. Name the civil servant who gave vital assistance for the draft committee. So in the draft committee, I said we are having 7 members along with the chairman. So in those 7 members, we have also discussed about the professions of those 7 members also. So if you remember, in the first MCQ part 1 of this video, we have discussed about the 7 members, who are the 7 members of the draft committee and what is the profession of each of these members. So here the question is, who of the 7 members are the civil servants? This is the question, right? So options for this is B.N. Raoji, S.N. Mukherjee, both the above, none of the above. Okay. So you have to go through the first video for this in order to answer this. Okay, just go back to the first video and have a look at that. There I have given the professions of each of the 7 members also. So for now, just remember the answer for this is option C. Both B.N. Raoji and S.N. Mukherjee, both were the civil servants. So let me explain you a bit more regarding this. B.N. Raoji, he is a constitutional advisor. B.N. Raoji is a constitutional advisor and he prepared a series of background papers based on a close study of the political systems obtained from different countries. Okay, he is an advisor, that is one of the designation for him. Along with that, what he did, what is the duty that he did in this making of the constitution means he prepared a series of background papers based on the close study of the political system obtaining in other countries. From other countries, he collected the material regarding the political system and prepared a series of background papers. That was the role of B.N. Raoji. Coming to this, S.N. Mukherjee. S.N. Mukherjee, he is a chief draftsman. In this draft committee, S.N. Mukherjee was the chief draftman. Okay. And this person who is having the ability to put the complex proposals into a clear legal language. So he is the person who effectively put the complex proposals, complex words into a clear, legal, understandable language. That was the role of S.N. Mukherjee. And both of them are the civil servants who were there in the Constituent Assembly. So the answer for this is option C. Okay, now. That's all for today's session, guys. Thank you, guys, and stay tuned till we go for the next session. In the next session, I'll provide you few more MCQs. Okay. Subscribe the channel and click the bell icon so that you will get the further notifications whenever I post my video. That's all for this session, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.